This is our video for Chapter 7, Lesson 1, Classifying Angles. Now, you will remember that in our prerequisite information for Chapter 7, we talked about how to classify individual angles. This lesson is really about classifying angle pairs, which means two angles that work together and have a special relationship. So the name of this lesson is a little bit deceiving. So we are going to begin, this is in your notes, we're going to start off with the definition of vertical angles. Vertical angles are formed when two lines intersect in an X. They sit across from each other and they are always congruent. So here is an example of a situation where vertical angles can be identified. And let's take a look at why that is. First of all, we have two lines that are intersecting. Here's one line, here's the other line, right? They're intersecting, they form the letter X. I hope you can see our X here. When that happens, we get four angles that are formed. Angle 1, angle 2, angle 3, and angle 4. Now, vertical angles are the angles that sit across from each other. So angle 1 and angle 3 would be vertical angles. Angle 1 and angle 3. Angle 2 and angle 4 are also vertical angles because they are sitting across from each other. Now, what's so special about vertical angles? A lot, actually. Vertical angles have the exact same measurement. That's what this word congruent means. Something interesting that you should know, the congruency sign looks like an equal sign with a swoopy sign on top. Some people also write the congruency sign with just one line and the swoopy sign on top. So be familiar with both of those. And what this means is angle 2 and angle 4 have the exact same measurement. You can see that if you look at these two angles. Look at this. Look at the shape of that angle. And look at the opposite angle. Look at angle 4. Look at its shape. They're the exact same measurement. If we cut this down the middle and folded angle 4 over to angle 2, they'd have the exact same measurement, exact same size. Same thing for angle 1 and angle 3. They would have the exact same size. So if we know that angle 1 is 100 degrees, then we also know that angle 3 is 100 degrees. Let's talk about our next type of angles. These are adjacent angles. The word adjacent means next door or right next to. So adjacent angles, these will share a vertex and they will also share a ray. They do not overlap and they are not typically congruent. I'm not saying that they'll never be congruent, but there's nothing special that says vertical angles have to have the same measurement. Adjacent angles have to have the same measurement. That's just not true. So, adjacent angles, let's take a look at angle 1 here. Angle 1 is this guy. Now, if we want to find an angle adjacent to angle 1, we're going to look for an angle that shares the vertex point and also shares one of the rays. So here is a ray. So the only angle that shares the vertex and this ray is angle 2. So angle 1 and angle 2 are adjacent. Can you find another angle that is adjacent to angle 1? Remember, it has to share a vertex. It also has to share a ray. So here's the other ray we can focus on for angle 1. The other angle that is adjacent to angle 1 is angle 4. Literally, that means that these angles are like next door neighbors. Think of a house. If you've ever seen a house that's attached to another house, they share a wall. That would be like adjacent angles. They share that ray, that could be their wall, and they share the vertex point. So we can also say that angle 2 has angles that are adjacent to it. Angle 2 is adjacent to angle 1. Angle 2 is also adjacent to angle 3. And we can keep finding those relationships as we work. Remember, nothing special about adjacent angles. They are not necessarily congruent. Next thing we want to look at is this diagram. This is on your notes, in the practice problems. So we can look here at number 1. It says name an angle vertical to angle AOD. So remember, for vertical angles, we need an X. We're looking for 2 lines that intersect in an X. So I'm going to highlight those lines for us. Here's a line, and here's a line. They intersect in an X. We have an extra ray here, but that doesn't really make a true X. So I'm going to ignore that for the time being since I'm talking about vertical angles. So angle AOD, that's this guy right here. And the angle that is vertical to it is the angle that's across from it. So that's angle COB right there. If we want to name an angle adjacent to angle AOE, now I'm going to clean up some of my scribbles up here. I'm going to clean this up. We're looking for an angle adjacent to angle AOE. Now we're looking for an angle that shares a vertex and shares a ray. So I'm going to choose to use this ray right here, ray OA. An angle that is adjacent to angle AOE would be angle DOA right there. There are other angles adjacent to angle AOE, and you are going to be asked to find another one as part of tonight's assignment. Number 3, let me clean up some space here. Number 3, it says if the measure of angle AOD is 65 degrees, what is the measure of angle COB? So let's look at angle AOD. Here it is, angle AOD. And we're saying that is 65 degrees. And we're looking for the measure of angle COB. So I'm going to trace that angle. Well, if I look to see what I've created an X. So those 2 angles sit across from each other, which means they're vertical angles, and they have the same measurement. They are congruent. So number 3, the measure of angle COB will also be 65 degrees. Number 4, I'm going to get you started on number 4. I'm going to let you finish it, but I will give you some hints. If the measure of angle AOE is 40 degrees, let me write that here, AOE is 40 degrees, and the measure of angle EOC is 65 degrees, then what is the measure of angle DOB? I want you to try that one for us for tomorrow. Number 14, number 5, sorry, I'll get you started on this one as well. It says find the value of X in the diagram. Number 5, I hope you're noticing I've got 2 lines intersecting in an X. The angles across from each other are vertical angles. That means they are congruent, which means they are equal to each other. So that means I can actually write an equation here. 2x minus 5 will be equal to 105 degrees. I bet you can think hard back to chapter 6 and you can solve for x. Don't forget your train tracks. Don't forget to check. That's it for today's lesson. Here's your assignment. First thing you have to do for me is name another angle adjacent to angle AOE in number 2. I also want you to finish number 4. I started that for you. Finish number 5. I started that for you. Don't forget to do number 6. It's very quick. And don't forget your Google form.